Every year, India's economic survey tells a story about its economy. But the story for 2025-26, it's not just about numbers. It's this incredible tale of a marathon runner who's suddenly being forced into a full-on sprint. It's a narrative about a nation that has this amazing internal strength, but it's facing a world that's gotten more turbulent than ever. And right at the heart of it all is a puzzle we're going to unpack today.
So, the headline news, it's fantastic. Domestically, India is having its strongest macroeconomic performance in decades. I mean, it's so strong that its potential growth rate, that's the speed it can grow without sparking inflation, has been revised upwards to a massive 7%. For a major economy, that is just a stunning number. The engine isn't just running, it's absolutely roaring.
And that, right there, brings us to the central puzzle of this entire survey. If everything's going so well at home, why isn't the rest of the world rewarding this success? Why is the Indian rupee underperforming, or as the survey itself puts it, punching below its weight? And why are global investors looking at these incredible numbers and still kind of hesitating? What's going on? Well, the answer lies right here, outside of its borders. See, this isn't just an economic story anymore. It's become a geopolitical one. India's domestic economic miracle is colliding head-on with a new, kind of hostile and really unpredictable global system. It's being forced to navigate some very, very treacherous waters. Okay, so let's really unpack this paradox. First, we're going to look inside, at the sheer strength of India's economic engine. Then, we're going to look outside, at the storm clouds that are gathering on the global horizon, the ones the survey is so deeply worried about.
So what does this internal strength actually look like? Well, the foundation is incredibly solid. We're talking about growth that isn't just strong, but it's accelerating. Inflation, it's contained. And unlike a lot of other countries, India's banks and corporate balance sheets are actually healthy. And what's really crucial here is that a whole wave of structural reforms is starting to pay off, leading to something we haven't seen in a long time. 3 different global credit agencies upgrading India's rating in a single year. The domestic report card is absolutely glowing. And listen to this. The survey's own preface just captures this tension perfectly with this quote. It powerfully frames the core conflict. What happens when you do everything right at home, but the global rules of the game have just fundamentally changed?
So what do these external challenges really look like? The survey doesn't just talk about vague headwinds. Oh no, it gets specific. It outlines 3 distinct potential scenarios for the world in the coming year.
Now, what's so fascinating here is how the survey actually quantifies the risk. It sees an 80 to 90% chance that we're heading for a world of, well, disorder. And this is split into 2 main paths. First, there's managed disorder. You can think of this as the new unstable normal. It's a fragile world where governments are constantly putting out fires. But then there's an almost equally high chance of a disorderly breakdown, and that's where things get much worse, where rivalries intensify and trade itself becomes a weapon. And then you've got the third scenario. It's the tail risk, right, with a 10 to 20% probability. This is the nightmare scenario of a systemic shock cascade. And the survey is not mincing words here. It states that the consequences could be even worse than the 2008 global financial crisis. The stakes are just incredibly high. So, when you're faced with this daunting global picture, what's the game plan? I mean, how does a nation even begin to thrive in the middle of all that chaos? Well, the survey proposes a really fascinating and demanding new strategy for the Indian state. And this slide right here perfectly captures the core idea. The survey says India has to do 2 things at once that seem completely contradictory. The marathon, that's the long-term game, patiently building institutions, boosting productivity, sustaining growth for decades. But the sprint, that's all about short-term agility, having the reflexes to absorb shocks, react to crises, and just maintain stability in this chaotic new world. Now, a key part of this new strategy is something the survey calls an entrepreneurial state. And this doesn't mean the government should act like a startup. It means it needs to think like one, making smart bets when you're not sure of the outcome, embracing calculated risks instead of just avoiding them, and learning really quickly from both your wins and your losses, all without getting bogged down by bureaucracy. So how does this entrepreneurial state idea work in practice? Well, the survey points to a huge policy choice between services and manufacturing. Now, service exports are a massive strength for India, but the survey argues they kind of allow companies to cleverly bypass the country's institutional weaknesses. Manufacturing, on the other hand, that's the hard path. You can't just bypass a clogged port or a slow bureaucracy. It forces the entire system to get better.
And that, the survey says, is the ultimate key to building the deep systemic strength that a strong currency is built on.
And this brings us right to the very heart of the survey's message. It argues that beneath all the data and all the policy talk, India is facing a fundamental, almost philosophical choice about the path it's going to take. So, drawing from ancient Indian philosophy, the survey frames this entire economic strategy as a timeless choice. On one side, you've got Preya. That's the immediately pleasant, the fleeting comfort, the politically easy option that feels good right now. And on the other side, you've got Shreya, the enduring good. That's the path of difficult reforms and delayed gratification that builds real long-term strength. The survey is basically saying that every single policy decision is a choice between planting a tree for the future or eating candy today. And so, this entire massive survey really boils down to this one powerful question. In a world of constant shocks and growing uncertainty, where the temptation for the easy fix, for Preya, is stronger than ever, can India consistently choose Shreya? Can it choose the enduring good over that fleeting comfort? The answer to that question is going to define its economic marathon for decades to come.